Record 18. Debris of logic, wounds and plaster. Never again. Last night, as soon as I had gone to bed, I fell momentarily to the bottom of the ocean of sleep, like an overloaded ship that had been wrecked. The heavy mass of wavy green water enveloped me. Then, slowly, I floated from the bottom upward, and somewhere in the middle of that course, I opened my eyes. My room. The morning was still green and motionless. A fragment of sunshine coming from the mirror on my closet door shone into my eyes. This fragment did not permit me to sleep, being thus an obstacle in the way of fulfilling exactly the rules of the tables, which prescribe so many hours of sleep. I should have opened the closet, but I felt as though I were in a spider web, and cobweb covered my eyes. I had no power to sit up. Yet I got up and opened the closet door. Suddenly, there, behind the door, making her way through the mass of garments that hung there, was I-330. I have become so accustomed of late to most improbable things that, as far as I remember, I was not even surprised. I did not even ask a question. I jumped into the closet, slammed the mirror door behind me, and breathlessly, brusquely, blindly, avidly, I clung to her. I remember clearly, even now, through the narrow crack of the door, a sharp sun ray, like lightning, broke into the darkness and played on the floor and walls of the closet, and a little higher, the cruel ray blade fell upon the naked neck of I-330, and this, for some reason, seemed to me so terrible that I could not bear it, and I screamed, and again I opened my eyes. My room. The morning was still green and motionless. On the door of my closet was a fragment of the sunshine. I was in bed. A dream? Yet my heart was still wildly beating, quivering, and twitching. There was a dull pain in the tips of my fingers and in my knees. This, undoubtedly, did happen. And now I am no longer able to distinguish what is dream from what is actuality. Irrational numbers grow through my solid, habitual, tri-dimensional life, and instead of firm, polished surfaces, there is something shaggy and rough. I waited long for the bell to ring. I was lying thinking, untangling a very strange logical chain. In our superficial life, every formula, every equation corresponds to a curve or a solid. We have never seen any curve or solid corresponding to my square root of -1. The horrifying part of the situation is that there exist such curves or solids. Unseen by us, they do exist. They must, inevitably. For in mathematics, as on a screen, strange, sharp shadows appear before us. One must remember that mathematics, like death, never makes mistakes, never plays tricks. If we are unable to see those irrational curves or solids, it means only that they inevitably possess a whole immense world somewhere beneath the surface of our life. I jumped up without waiting for the waking bell and began to pace up and down the room. My mathematics, the only firm and immovable island of my shaken life, this too was torn from its anchor and was floating, whirling. Then it means that that absurd thing, the soul, is as real as my unit, as my boots, although I do not see them since they are behind the door of the closet. If boots are not a sickness, why should the soul be one? I sought, but I could not find a way out of the logical confusion. It looked to me like that strange and sad debris beyond the green wall. My debris of logic, too, is filled with extraordinary, incomprehensible, wordless, but speaking beings. It occurred to me for a moment that, through some strange, thick glass, I saw it. I saw it at once, infinitely large and infinitely small, scorpion like, with hidden but ever perceptible sting. I saw the square root of -1. Perhaps it was nothing else but my soul, which, like the legendary scorpion of the ancients, was voluntarily stinging itself with the bell. The day began. All I saw and felt neither died nor disappeared. It merely became covered with daylight, as if a visible world does not die or disappear at the end of the day, but merely becomes covered with darkness of night. My head was filled with a light, a thin haze. Through that haze I perceived the long glass tables and the globe-like heads, busy chewing slowly, silently, in unison. At a distance through the haze, the metronome was slowly beating its tick-tock, and to the accompaniment of this customary and caressing music, I joined with the others in counting automatically to 50. 50 is the number of chewing movements required by the law of the state for every piece of food. And automatically then, keeping time, I went downstairs and put my name down in the book for the outgoing numbers, as everyone did. But I felt I lived separately from everybody. I lived by myself, separated by a soft wall which absorbed noises. Beyond that wall, there was my own world. Here a thought occurred to me. If that world is only my own, why should I tell about it in these records? Why should I recount all these absurd dreams about closets, endless corridors? With great sorrow, I noticed that instead of a correct and strictly mathematical poem in honor of the United States, I'm writing a fantastic novel. Oh, if only it were a novel and not my actual life, full of excess, square roots of -1, and downfalls. Yet all may be for the best. Probably you, my unknown readers, are children still, as compared with us. We are brought up by the United States. Consequently, we have reached the highest summits attainable by man, and you, being children, may swallow without crying all the bitter things I am to give you, only if they be coated with the syrup of adventures. The same evening. Are you familiar with the following sensation? You are in an arrow and you dash upward along a blue spiral line. The window is open and the wind rushes past your face, whistling. There is no earth. The earth is forgotten. The earth is far from you as Venus, Saturn, or Jupiter. That is how I live now. A hurricane wind beats into my face. I forget the earth. Forget Rosie, my dear 090. Yet the earth does exist, and sooner or later I must plane down to that earth. Only I close my eyes to avoid seeing the date at which the name 090 is written on my tables. This evening, the distant earth reminded me of itself. In order to fulfill the recommendation of the doctor, I desire sincerely, most sincerely, I desire to be cured. I wandered for 2 hours and 8 minutes over the straight lines of the deserted avenues. Everybody was in the auditoriums, in accordance with the table. Only I, cut off from the rest, I was alone. Strictly speaking, it was a very unnatural situation. Imagine a finger cut off from the whole, from the hand, a separate human finger, somewhat hunched, running over the glass sidewalk. I was such a finger. What seemed most strange and unnatural was that the finger had no desire to be with its hand, with its fellows. I want either to be alone or with her, to transfuse my whole being into hers through a contact with her shoulder or through our interwoven fingers. I came home as the sun was setting. The pink dust of evening was covering the glass of the walls, the golden peak of the accumulating tower, the voices and smiles of the numbers. Isn't it strange? The passing rays of the evening sun fall to the earth at the same angle as the awakening rays of the morning. Yet they make everything seem so different. The pink tinge is different. At sunset it is so quiet, somewhat melancholy. At sunset, at sunrise, it is resounding, boisterous. When I entered the hall downstairs, I saw you, the controller. She took a letter from the heaps of envelopes covered with pink dust and handed it to me. I repeat, she is a very respectable woman, and I am sure she has only the very best feelings towards me. Yet, every time I see those cheeks hanging down, which look like the gills of a fish, Holding out her dry hand with the letter, you sighed, but that sigh, only very slightly, moved in me the curtains which separate me from the rest of the world. I was completely engrossed by the envelope, which trembled in my hand. I had no doubt that it was a letter from I-330. At that moment, I heard another sigh, such a deliberate one, underscored by 2 lines, that I raised my eyes from the envelope and saw a tender, cloudy smile coming from between the gills, through the bashful blinds of lowered eyes. And then, "You poor, poor dear," A sigh underscored with three lines and a glance at the letter, an imperceptible glance. What was in the letter? She naturally knew. Ex officio. No? Really? Why? No, no, dear. I know better than you. For a long time I have watched you, and I see that you need someone with years of experience of life to accompany you. I felt all pasted around by her smile. It was like a plaster upon the wounds which were to be inflicted upon me by the letter I held in my hand. Finally, through the bashful blinds of her eyes, she said in a very low voice, I shall think about it, dear. I shall think it over, and be sure that if I feel myself strong enough. Great well-doer! Is it possible that is my lot? Is it possible that she means to say that she. My eyes dimmed and filled with thousands of sinusoids. The letter was trembling. I went near the light, to the wall. There, the light of the sun was going out. From the sun, the dark, sad, pink dust was falling thicker and thicker, covering the floor. My hands, the letter. I opened the envelope and found the signature as fast as I could. The first wound. It was not I-330, it was 090. And another wound. In the right hand corner, a slovenly splash. A blot. I cannot bear blots. It matters little whether they were made by ink or by. Well, it does not matter by what. Heretofore, such a blot would have had only a disagreeable effect, disagreeable to the eyes. But now, why did that small grey blot seem like a cloud, and seem to spread about me a leaden bluish darkness? Or was it again the soul at work? Here is a transcript of the letter. You know, or perhaps you don't. I cannot write well. Little it matters. Now you know what, without you, there is for me. Not a single day, a single morning, a single spring. For R is only. Well, that is of no importance to you. At any rate, I am very grateful to him. For without him, alone all these days, I don't know what would. During these last few days and nights, I have lived through 10 years, or perhaps 20 years. My room seemed to me not square, but round. I walk around without end, round after round, always the same thing. Not a door to escape through. I came to live without you because I love you, and I should not. I cannot be with you any more because I love you, because I see and I understand that you need no one now, no one in the world save that other. And you must realize that it is precisely because I love you that I must. I need another 2 or 3 days in order to paste together the fragments of myself and thus restore at least something similar to the 090 of old. Then I shall go myself, and I myself shall state that I take your name from my list, and this will be better for you. You must feel happy now. I shall never again. Goodbye, oh. Never again. Yes, that is better. She is right. But why? Then, why then?